Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Bhavani Sankaradhikari, Dr. Bhawani Sankaradhikari. Today, I have brought a story, My Old Home, written by Lu Sun. My Old Home is a story written by Lu Sun, who is considered the father of modern Chinese literature. He is the follower of Confucius literature. His Lu Sun is his pen name. It is a story about the Sun's memories from youth to middle age that depicts the conflict between memories and realities. The story describes how Sun feels while being away from home for many years. His memories of his birthplace are different from the realities. His old home was thought to be an ideal one, and it forced him to come back to his old home, and it was different from what he had imagined, expected, and hoped to be when he came to his home. The speaker was 600 miles away from his house. It was in the depth of winter. His homeland area was far more lovely in his mind's eye. His sole purpose in coming back was to say his home farewell forever. His old family, compounds relatives living for many years had already been sold. The transaction was to be completed by the end of the year, means he had to just legally sell the house and leave by the end of the year. His family members had to leave old comfortable rooms and move away from the place where he was living now. His mother had already come out to greet him when he arrived in his home. His 8-year-old nephew was Hongar, whom he had never seen before, right? Not from, never seen before, right? That from is a typing mistake. He had already rented a place for all the family members and even had bought a few sticks of furniture in a new place where they were going. His mother had already their baggage gathered together and ready to go as he arrived there. She had even sold the heavy furniture that could not readily be moved. He had to see Rantu, who was his childhood friend. Rantu had come to the writer's old home with his father in the past, 30 years before, and Rantu and Lusun had become friends 30 years before. 20 years before, Rantu was 12 years old, and then the writer was only 10 years, means that Rantu was 2 years older than the writer. The writer had met Rantu 30 years ago. At that time, Lusun's mother was busy, and Rantu had come to take care of the house. The workers were divided into three categories in China. If they worked the whole year long for one family, they were called year-long workers. If they worked by the day, and they were called short timers, only in working in a daytime were called short timers. If they tilled their land on land but worked for specific family just during the holidays or when rents were collected, and they were called busy monthers. This is the division of three different kinds of workers in China in the past. Rantu was good to set snares and catch birds. Rantu's father loved him very much in his childhood, and there was a fear that Rantu might die, and he had to put a shining silver ring around his neck. His father had taken him to a statue of the Buddha in his childhood, and he promised to do something for the Buddha in return. He was a traditional type of person. When Rantu and Lusun got isolated in the past, Rantu wailed, means cried, wept, and then cried too. When Rantu came to meet Lusun, now he came with his son, who became the best friend of Lusun's nephew, Hongar. Rantu was lean and thin, and he looked very old, though he was very young. He was a farmer whom the businessmen, administrators, and soldiers exploited. He had to pay taxes, and Lusun was addressed as sore by Rantu, but his mother advised him, Rantu, to call him friend. Call, okay, not his, this is him. To call him friend. To call this writer his friend, right? Bankar Beauty, that is another lady was there. Her name was Bankar Beauty, was the second sister of Yang. She used to powder her face. She was a successful businesswoman. She was very famous in the past to do the business. And now Rantu did not know her and she became angry with him because she had taken care of the writer, right, and Lusun when he was young. Rantu's face was muddy and pale, with grey and deep wrinkles. He seemed to be quite old. He worked close to the sea. There was farmland close to the sea, and there he used to work. He was wearing battered, old cotton clothes. His hands were rough, clumsy, and cracked as pine bark. His expression was a mixture of happiness and melancholy. Rantu's son, Suiheng, had no silver, who had also come there, silver ring around his neck like Rantu. Well, that was the difference. The family of Lusun provided Rantu with what he wanted and left the old home. The story mirrors that birthplace is much more loving and it is too hard to leave as it has become too so to Lusun. The second message is about the pitiable condition of farmers' life as run to in China. The third one is that friendship is much more important in life as run to and listen. The fourth one is that we must migrate for knowledge and prosperity as Lusun has done in life. In fact, this story, The Old Home, is a memory of the writer himself. The writer was away from his home for 20 years. He was far away, 200 miles from his home, and now he was there already established in a new place. He had earned money, he had bought a small house, he had even made other furnitures in his new place, and now this writer had come back to his old home to take all his family members and to go in the new place. He wanted to take his mother. He had not seen his nephew Hongar before because he was only 8 years old and he had not seen. Now he saw his even nephew there sitting with his mother. His mother had already prepared everything. When the writer comes at his old home, now his old friends, 30 years back's friend, Rantu wanted to come there. And in the past, Rantu was the worker. Rantu's father was the worker in the house of the writer. There was a program and Rantu's father had brought him in the house of the writer to take care of the goods so that there would be just good caring of the goods not to be stolen. And writer and Rantu had become friends at that time. Rantu was only 2 years older than the writer. They became the best friend. But Rantu started farming at the seaside. He was worker. He was very good bird catchers. He had very good skills. He was hard worker in the farmland. But his farming did not make him good life. He did not become rich. He was very young. Though he was very young, he seems to be very old from the outside appearance. And he was badly treated by the system of the government, by the administrator, by the businessman, by the authority because he had to pay a lot of taxes for the government. And then there was no income of his life. He was in a tatter, old, just clothes that was not good enough in his life. He was very tall and he felt very shy when he met the writer in his now when the writer came to his house. At that time, Rantu had brought even his son Suiheng. He was similar like Rantu. Only the difference was that there was no silver ring around his neck as Rantu had because Rantu's father loved him very much in the past and he was scared of his death. He had taken Rantu to the statue of the Buddha and there he had made one ring, a silver ring, and put around his neck and he had promised to the statue of the Buddha to give something in return and requested to save the life of his son. So when Rantu came there to meet at the writer with the writer, and the writer felt there was a tragedy. There was not good enough, good life. It was very pitiable. The writer did not recognize even that Boncar beauty that was his second sister, Yang. She was very famous businessman in the time of the writer's childhood. She was fashionable too. She used to put powder in her face, and she was successful in business. But later, his mother recognized him. His mother helped him to know who she was, and they became very close. And then they talked about the past events. And when the family was about to leave, now there was the crowd of people to see them off, to say goodbye. And at that time, Rantu wanted to take some of the goods from the house. Writer was ready to give whatever Rantu wanted to take from his house, and Rantu took whatever the things he needed. And when they left the house, and they left that sold that house and left the place, it was very difficult for them to leave for the first, because it was the last time they were leaving. And this writer's nephew Ongar was asking the writer when they would come back again, right? But he did not know how they were going. That writer's nephew had become very close friend, the the writer and Rantu, so, Rantu, right? Because Rantu's son Suheng and writer's nephew became very close friend. And this story says that they were not able to meet in the past because Writer and Rantu did not have any telecommunication system. Rantu was a farmer. Writer left the place, and there was no connection for 20 years. Now, story says that this is a modern age. Now, people must have a communication, must meet one another through the modern system of communication. And this should not become the writer's nephew and Rantu's son should not become the friend like the writer and the Rantu, because they can use technology and then communication system of present modern age. This is one message of the story. Another message is that people cannot get their prosperity, their better life, better knowledge until and unless they do not leave their birthplace. If the writer has become successful, very good person, very capable one after leaving the birthplace, and the his friend, writer's friend Rantu, has not become successful. He has just become the victim of his birthplace. So this is one story that we must leave, we must migrate, and then only it is possible to have the progress in life. Another message is birthplace is always beautiful, always loving, and it is too hard, too difficult to leave. And writer felt very difficult to leave. And when we are away from the home, from our home, and we feel that our birthplace can be best one, imaginative one, ideal one, beautiful one. But when we come to the birthplace, it is not what we have imagined and what we have thought in our mind. It seems to be different. The writer found that it was quite different when he came his birthplace, right? He had thought that his birthplace was the ideal place before he arrived there, right? It brings the pitiable condition of the Chinese farmers. They are very pitiable. They are not just happy. They are working hard but not getting enough money. Their lifestyle is not standard. They have to struggle hard. Their struggle is not so just praiseworthy to make their life different. And this is another message. And the writer even has given the message that the friendship must be much more important, and it must be respected. There must not be any gap, any just seniority and senior and junior feeling. No matter whatever the post, no matter whatever the ranks it is, they have to be quite close and friendly and loving when they meet, right? So another idea is that knowledge and prosperity and better things and progress in life cannot become quite successful, quite meaningful, living in only one place. It is human nature to go in different places, migrate different places, and to have the progress in life, right? These are some of the ideas, and then maybe the story is quite long, though these main points can be quite useful for the understanding and writing in the exam. Thank you. I hope you will enjoy it and you can understand the story through these slides and whatever I have spoken. You